Congratulations are in order.
Saudi Arabia began issuing driving licenses to women for the first time.
10 women received their licenses after taking part in a brief driving test in the capital, Riyadh.
Well done, Saudi Arabia. You've finally lifted the world's only ban on women drivers. Sure, the activists who fought for the right remain jailed, but never mind that. Welcome to the 20th century. To celebrate this historic moment, I'd like to offer some tips to the Saudi royal family on how you can join us in the 21st century. After all, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has been hard at work branding himself as an enlightened reformer who's modernizing the kingdom. So here's some advice on how to really get the ball rolling. Tip number 1, end the guardianship system. Women in Saudi Arabia might have the right to drive, something they were banned from doing under the strict religious edicts of Wahhabism. More on that in a bit. But repealing the driving ban is mostly superficial if it doesn't address Saudi Arabia's discriminatory male guardianship system, which treats women like second-class citizens. Under the guardianship law, women have to get permission from a male relative to do basic things like travel, apply for a passport, study abroad, get married, and see a doctor. There's no other country in the world where adult women are treated like that, unless you count what's left of ISIS territory. So, Saudi Arabia, instead of being the Islamic version of Handmaid's Tale, quit treating women like children. Tip number 2, stop beheading people. It's sick that in 2018, the death penalty is still practiced in so many countries, but Saudi Arabia is one of the worst offenders. In the first 4 months of 2018 alone, Saudi Arabia executed 48 people, half of them for non-violent drug offenses. And the way they do it is straight out of medieval times. The methods range from beheading to crucifixion and stoning.
In Saudi Arabia, executions can be carried out publicly with one sword blow to the neck.
If that's not terrifying enough,
Headless bodies are sometimes put on display as a warning.
other crimes punishable by death in the kingdom include adultery, sorcery, and apostasy. I know. How else is a medieval religious monarchy supposed to maintain control of its population, if not through fear and terror? And that brings me to tip number 3. Change your textbooks.
The state Wahhabi ideology is taught to Saudi children from an early age.
There's that word again, Wahhabism. So what is it? Well, Wahhabism is a puritanical and ultra-conservative form of Sunni Islam that emerged in the 1700s and has been a major source of inspiration for Salafi jihadist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. It also happens to be the dominant religion practiced in Saudi Arabia, and it preaches genocidal hate against non-Sunnis, especially Shias. So kids in Saudi Arabia grow up being taught hateful and violent ideas like
المسيحيون هؤلاء حكمهم مقاتلتهم حتى ينتهوا طبعا هؤلاء سينحرون.
and
طبعا ناخذ عن الشيعة انهم رافضة ومقاتلتهم وإبعادهم.
These Saudi textbooks have been exported all around the world and have been used in mosques and Islamic schools from the UK to Indonesia and even ISIS territory. Which brings us to tip number 4. Stop spreading Wahhabism around the world. Even if Saudi Arabia were to give equal rights to women tomorrow, stop crucifying people, and fix its textbooks, it wouldn't change the destructive impact the Saudis have had with their intentional spreading of Wahhabism. It's difficult to explain why ISIS uses Saudi textbooks, why 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 were Saudi, and why Saudi nationals made up the largest number of foreigners in ISIS without an understanding of Wahhabi theology. Wahhabism sucks for Arabs and Muslims too. Many of the Islamophobic tropes peddled by anti-Muslim bigots are based on practices inherent in Wahhabism, like stoning of adulterers, amputating the limbs of thieves, death by beheading, and so on. The Middle East wasn't always plagued by regressive fundamentalism. Salafi jihadist groups like Al-Qaeda weren't popular in the region, and they still aren't. They've been violently imposed on people thanks in large part to the actions of Saudi Arabia in partnership with the US, which is a long-standing pattern of backing religious fundamentalists to further its geopolitical ambitions, first against Arab nationalists and communists in the Middle East, then against the Soviet Union and Afghanistan in the 1980s, and more recently against the government of Syria. With US backing, Saudi Arabia has spent tens of billions of dollars spreading Wahhabism throughout Sunni Muslim communities around the world, part of an attempt to remake Sunni Islam in Saudi Arabia's image. It also provides fertile recruiting pools for Salafi jihadist fighters and inspires terrorism around the world. So please, stop spreading Wahhabism. And while we're at it, tip number 5, stop destroying Yemen. The Saudi-led US-backed war on Yemen has killed thousands of Yemenis, has caused a cholera outbreak that kills a Yemeni child every 10 minutes, and has left millions of Yemenis at risk of starving to death. The richest country in the region is annihilating the poorest country in the region. It's a bad look, MBS. And finally, tip number 6, stop being American Empire's bitch. Maybe then you can produce something besides oil, Wahhabism, and war. Good luck, you guys!